Hello and welcome to the Enterprise Talk Conversation Series, a peer knowledge resource by the CXOs for the CXOs. Now to our host, Kanika Goswami.
Hi, we welcome you to a podcast on stage with enterprise thought leaders. My name is Kanika Goswami and I'm the managing editor of On.Media's B2B enterprise technology publications. We have engaging conversations with global thought leaders and industry experts, and I'm told they reach about 1.3 million business leaders worldwide. Despite personalization being seen as an essential differentiator in consumer engagement, just 44% of UK consumer product marketers believe that their campaigns and content are effectively personalized. And that's according to the new Consumer Product Engagement Report from SAP Emarsys. The report introduces the Customer Engagement Maturity Score, an indicative rating of how ready a brand is to maximize the potential to its customer engagement strategy and empower marketers to meet their business goals. Today, we are speaking with Sara Richter. She's a CMO at SAP Emarsys to understand this data and what this report talks about and how companies can strategize for maximum consumer engagement. Welcome to the podcast, Sara. It's lovely to have you here today.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be here, Kanika.
It's a pleasure. Sara has more than 15 years of experience in senior global marketing roles at high-growth MarTech organizations that include Clicktale, IBM Tealeaf, Acquia, and Unica. Her passion is for building marketing teams that act as trusted partners to the sales organization. Sara excels in strategy and communications, which deliver measurable pipeline and revenue. She holds a BA from the University of California in Los Angeles. So, Sara, after this introduction, can you quickly encapsulate what the report is about and what it means for CMOs worldwide?
Pleasure to. So the report, this is the first year we've done this report. So we were really excited to see what it was going to tell us about what CMOs, what marketers in CP globally were doing. And what it has uncovered for us, and you touched on it so beautifully in your introduction, is what we're calling the personalization gap. The gap between expectations that we all as consumers, as customers have of the brands that we engage with, and those brands' actual ability to create the personalized experiences that we want and crave so that we have long-term relationships and show loyalty to brands, and so that brands can deliver business outcomes, including profitability, which is so fundamental. And the gap has really uncovered a number of things I think that CMOs and marketers can really think very hard about in terms of what they can do to close this gap and improve the level of engagement and connection with their customers.
That's nice. That's a very short, very concise encapsulation. So my first question is, and that must be the basic premise of your report, do you think CMOs and marketers and marketing leaders are doing enough to deliver personalization? Everybody and the second cousin, they are aware that personalization actually drives great marketing. But clearly not enough is being done about it, right?
No. So I think so. Let me start with your first question. The answer is no. Marketers are not doing enough to deliver effective personalization. And our report tells us that marketers know that. 44% of marketers told us that they aren't doing enough in terms of personalization to really deliver the right experiences. Similarly, consumers are telling the same thing, the same percentage. So both sides of the relationship, if you like, are saying there is not enough personalization. There is not an experience here that reflects what either we want to provide or what we want to have. And that's quite scary when you realize the report also tells us that 61% of consumers, so way more than half, say that personalization is directly influencing their purchasing decisions. So that personalization gap is real, but personalization then isn't just a nice to have. It's not just something that you use that is a nice thing to do, that it's nice to get an email that says, "Dear Kanika." Personalization is actually a competitive differentiator. And that really, for me, is what marketers need to understand. And they need to think about how they can maximize it to really provide those engagements and experiences that their customers are begging for, and they will see the returns going forward.
So we do have a whole bunch of marketing technology tools and platforms that drive that. Do you think they're adequate for delivering better personalization?
So there's a wealth of MarTech options out there, and It's less about what you are using than how you are using it. Are your systems fragmented? Are they siloed? Are they giving you real-time access to your data? Have you implemented things in a way that's allowing you to use things like AI to really scale your personalization? And the answer, and it's in the report, is a lot of brands are not. They have a number of different tools across large organizations. Their visibility and their ability to activate their data is patchy at best. And that's really what's coming back to bite them and not allowing them to deliver those personalized engagements at scale that they want to do.
What more can CMOs do to understand what the customers need? Now we have the tools, we have the platforms, and I'm sure we have more than enough data. So what is it that they're not doing? What is it that they can do to reach there?
So it's really interesting. As a CMO, I get told that data is the thing I need to worry about the most. And it can be, I'm sure any CMO listening to this is probably tired of hearing it. But the reality is the data is fundamental. If you have a platform and you have tools, but the data isn't telling you what you need to do to understand your customers, to really get to grips with a one-to-one relationship with them at scale, across multiple channels, to really understand when you should connect with them and when you should not. Ideally, predict and be able to be ahead of the game rather than just be reactive. So give me the information that I want when I want it without my having to tell you that I want it in the right way, at the right moment, on the right channel. That's a marketer. A marketer that can do that has really embraced the use of their data, not just the collection of their data. And a marketer that's doing that has really and truly embraced what we are calling the engagement era, because they're understanding that the quality of every single engagement is actually powered by that data and by their actual understanding of each and every one of their customers.
So just an observation, just out of curiosity. Now that we have automated tools and chatbots and all kinds of other bots to support, do you think it's going to make a difference? Do you think it's making a difference at this point because they're fairly advanced even now?
I think it's making a difference where marketers have connected all of those things. Absolutely, it is. And we have some customers that are doing some really wonderful things. The sweets or candy company, depending on where you are in the world, Ferrara is an example of a customer of ours and a broader SAP customer who found out some really exciting things about their customers that changed the way they engaged. So, in the process of looking at the data and understanding their customers better, they discovered that there is a connection between the customers eating sweets or candy and gaming. So that told them something completely new about a segment of their customer base. It tells them what their customer base is actually doing while they're actually eating their product, how they're going to want to have their product, when they're going to want to have their product, perhaps how it relates to different games. And they use that data to actually engage with their customers in a much more productive, much more exciting way. And they also made a mental shift in terms of how they thought about their customers as not just customers, but as fans. So they're fans of the brand. They're fans of the sweets, of the candy. So how do you think about your customers that way? And when you do that, I think that changes the way you think about the experience that you're providing. And it takes you away from a very basic transactional engagement of, I made an offer, you purchased X, I sent it to you, and I moved on. Marketers have to move beyond that if they're really going to actually make real use of all these tools and systems, if they're actually going to have long-term lasting engagements and relationships with their customers.
So you just gave a very interesting example of candy manufacture. Is there anything else that comes to mind by way of a use case on, some people who've done a great job doing that?
So I would invite anybody always to our website. We have loads of them, and I'd be happy to share a couple of more. So let me leap from candy to hair products, if I could, for something
Sure.
very different. So
Sure.
John Frieda, which I think is a name that many of us know, is a customer of ours, and John Frieda actually used Emarsys and data to segment their audiences as they were actually launching a new product. And in the process of launching that new product and thinking about the personalized messages they wanted to give to those customers, they boosted awareness and they actually drove conversions. And in the process of this, they got a 4.2 higher conversion rate. So in terms of changing their engagement, they actually saw a true impact on the bottom line. They actually reached more people through the campaign because the campaign was more targeted, it was more personalized, and it truly appealed to the right people. So they thought about what the message was, how to deliver that message, and who the people were that were going to receive that message. And when they aligned all those things, the magic happened. So that's one. So we can switch back to sweeter things if you like. Krispy Kreme, who makes donuts. I seem to be on a sweet theme today. I must have a sweet tooth.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll think about coffee and donuts and de-sweeten a little bit. They have done a lot to work with us in terms of finding a solution that actually unified their customer data and really allowed them to deliver personalized journeys at speed with removing some of the complexity. And one of the things you touched on earlier is how many systems does everybody have? And surely those systems are advanced enough for you to do those things. And I don't think anybody questions that. It's people's ability to actually bring them together and maximize that. And not just the systems, but the data. So do you have the data? Are you using AI to help you really access that data, segment that data, activate that data in real time, and then using AI to power those personalizations across multiple channels? And that is exactly what Krispy Kreme did in terms of working with us. And they saw a 53% increase in their leads and a significant uplift in their customer engagement. So what they looked to do on that end by really sitting down and thinking about it and streamlining it and making sure the data was at the center and that the platform gave them the ability to activate these sophisticated, exciting ways that we now have to make use of the wealth of data at our fingertips, to communicate and engage with our customers across all these channels, to drive business outcomes, but also to continue to drive and nurture the loyalty of the customer to the brand. And that's all about customer lifetime value, and that is incredibly important to all CMOs, I think, from all brands.
If I may, I'd like to make a very philosophical observation here. All the tools and the platforms that we can collect with advancing technologies and innovations and all of it, what you're saying is, unless they are used in a proper manner, unless they are used to derive the right kind of data or the kind of data that is useful for personalizing a product for a customer, they will not perform by themselves and they will not deliver by themselves. Is that right?
I think that's exactly right. And I think that's exactly the trap that sometimes people fall into. They bought the splashy the new whatever, the tool, the thing.
Right.
And it doesn't work for them. Certainly we saw people, I think last year we saw people playing with AI and running into that, is that it seemed very complex. How do we get value from it? I think what we see this year is much more people really understanding what the use cases are for AI. And from a marketing standpoint, it allows you to take a lot of very manual tasks and move them much more quickly to do them at scale. It allows you to access and get value from your data at speed and at scale. And as marketers are tapping into really where these things can work for them and understanding how to navigate the complexity and how to make these tools really deliver value, then we're starting to see customers like some of the ones I've already mentioned do some really wonderful things and change the way that they engage. And if you look back at our report, we talked about a customer engagement maturity index. And what we found is that the customers, that the brands that score very highly on that, it's not an accident that they also have a mature and connected data strategy, because by doing that, they're connecting back to all of these things and they're activating all of the channels, they're activating all the technology that they have in-house.
So I actually wanted to ask you about the customer engagement maturity index. It is something that I think CMOs should know a little more about. And also, how is it measurable? How do CMOs understand where they stand, and what more can be done? Is there something you can share a little bit of insight on that?
So I would start by suggesting, and I'm sure we can provide at the end for everyone to access the report and really sit down and read it, because there is a lot in there and there's a lot to digest in terms of understanding what this is and what it means. But I think as you read through it, brands can ask themselves some basic questions. And there's some of the things that we have talked about here today. When you look at your MarTech setup, are you looking at something that is connected? Are you looking at something that's siloed and fragmented? That's often stage one of what we talk about with customer engagement maturity.
Right.
Start there. Where are you, if you're honest with yourself, in terms of your access to the data that you need to know about your customers and your ability to activate that data? Because that's one of the pitfalls that marketers fall into. There's loads of data within the organization, but you can't actually use it. Or it takes you so long to get to that data because you're probably not using AI, because you probably have silos of data that are fragmented. By the time you've had time to pull the data, manually segment it, and think it through, the moment has passed. And you're already your days, if not weeks, forward.
Right.
And
Right.
those customers have moved on. And quite likely your competitors, who may be ahead of you in terms of thinking about all this, have engaged them in a much more real-time, agile way and are starting to glean them away from you. So those are some of the places I would start. I would think about omnichannel. Our world is omnichannel. Now, that doesn't mean that you as a brand or a marketer or a CMO need to access and use every single one of the literally hundreds of channels that there are out there. The key is to understand which channels your customers want you to use and to make sure you are using those to communicate with them. And if you look at some of the research, it will tell you that email is still an extremely popular channel to use between brand and customer. We're seeing that 44% of channels that's still very, 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 very valid and very much alive and has value. But live chat and social media and SMS are absolutely growing. If you're talking to perhaps specific generations, then if you're not using a mobile channel, then you're probably not communicating in the right ways. If for so many people, the communication needs to exist in the palm of your hand, which means that the relationship has to translate there as well. But again, you've got to pick the right one, which goes back to your data and understanding where your customers are and when they are, because most customers are going to have a relationship with you that spans time, hopefully, and probably spans channels, because most customers communicate with the brand now over multiple channels. So are you able to use your data to connect me as the customer on the app on my phone to the customer that you email, to the customer that came into the store, and actually bring that whole experience, for example, together and address me as a single individual? And that can be a real challenge. So these are the things that I would encourage CMOs to be thinking about as they're thinking about their strategies and their mature engagement and maturity.
And you answered my last question even before I answered it. That today customers are looking for an omni-channel experience and CMOs need to personalize across all of them. So yes, that's what you just said.
I don't even think they know they're looking for an omni-channel experience. They're just engaging in the places they expect the brand to be where they are and to show up in the way that they want them to show up. And for some people, that's just purely an email, and for others, it's an SMS. For others, it's this much more cross-channel experience. For some, it's 100% on your mobile phone, and they won't engage with you beyond that. They're never going to talk to you as a one-to-one human being. They're only going to engage with you that. So the secret sauce is really just goes back to understanding that customer. And if you understand the customer, then you can engage with the customer in the right way at the right moment. And that's what's going to drive customer loyalty and lifetime value.
Right. And data at the base of it all.
Absolutely.
Correct. So that is it for now. I think this has been a good discussion. You answered all the questions. Is there any insight that you would want to share for a CMO to be able to achieve a uniform, or more precisely, a more successful outreach, omni-channel across channels, that you could probably say to a CMO? And of course, be there, be aware, study the data carefully, examine where your customers are on, which platform, or which situation are they in, where do they want to be met, right? Anything else?
I think there is one thing really that I try to remember a lot. we've talked about technology, we've talked about data. At the end of the day, this is a person-to-person relationship. It's a human relationship. Remember that your customer is a human being, and you are having a relationship one-to-one with that human being. Most relationships are based on a value exchange. So if you think about it that way, with every engagement, that you're talking to a person, that person wants you to bring value to the conversation or the engagement that you're having in that relationship. If you do that, they will bring value in return. And if you can start to do that consistently, that's what creates truly long-term relationships. That's what creates loyalty and true loyalty, which is what every brand is after. And that's what creates true lifetime value.
Absolutely. So that's another point which I wanted to bring up, but I thought we are discussing technology, so I shouldn't get it. In the middle of all of this artificial intelligence, human intelligence will anyway score. And also you'll understand what their requirements are. And also when you talk about value, the value that the product brings to the customer.
Absolutely, you cannot forget all of those things. I couldn't agree more. I don't believe that AI replaces human beings. I don't believe it replaces a marketer. It cannot do there are things that it cannot do that a marketer can. A marketer brings a level of uniqueness to what they do and their understanding of the brand and how they take it to market. What AI can do is make the marketer's job easier. You can move faster. You can do more. You can reach people more regularly, more accurately, all the things that we have talked about so far. It's about removing barriers for a marketer, not replacing a marketer.
Correct. So on that note, thank you so much, Sara. We took some time with you, but I think it's been extremely insightful. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for being with us. Please do follow us on social media for regular updates and new content.